Hi everyone and welcome in this new recording. Today we will be discussing the new feature that I have just introduced in the NervForge tree generator to be able to generate this kind of tree configuration. Actually, I think this is called a Willow tree, and as before I use the model that I could see from the TreeIt application as a template for the implementation. So now let's get started to see how you can build this tree. So the first new feature I have introduced is the support for this render tab, which we can now use to actually render new leaf textures from whatever we have in the scene. So the way this currently works is as follows. You can have whatever construction you want for your tree, and then typically you would just check this box to display this area, which is the texture area that you will then be rendering. So yeah, I guess maybe it's a bit unusual for a mechanism to render texture, but the convenient thing is that you can go wherever you want, and you can take whatever part of the tree you want, so you don't really need to have the full tree, and you just specify the name of the texture. So let's say this is texture 1, and you just click on this button to render a new leaf texture. So nothing is happening here, but we actually have now on the leaf tab a new texture available here in this list. So if you just go there, you can actually select this texture. And the funny thing is, we are not using the full tree that we have here as a texture for the leaf. So if we get close to it, you will see that this is actually the leaf texture, except that it's upside down in this case, so we need to flip it. And that's, yeah, rendering the complete tree. So this one is a bit too messy to actually understand anything from here, so let's try with a simpler example. Actually, I have here a very simple example, which is the maple branch 1, and that's a pretty simple tree where we only have the level 1 and level 2, and we have leaves, very big leaves on those two branches levels. And so you can get this kind of result, so it's completely flat or almost flat. And now I could go, for instance, here, and I can make a new texture from this perspective. So we go on the rendered page, and in fact another thing I should mention is that here you can control in fact the fold angle. So here it's telling us that we use 90% of the vertical fold angle, so it means that this part here is 5%, and here also you have 5%, so you can grow this or reduce it however you need, but typically I like to keep it at 90%. And then you can also change the resolution of the texture that you will be rendering, and that's also affecting the aspect ratio of your display. So if you increase this, for instance, like that, you can get a higher resolution image and still keep it approximately squared. Or in some cases you want to have very long leaves, so you can render it rather with this kind of shape. But here obviously we need a bigger shape, but maybe not so big, like that. And let's say we can get closer. So that would be a good leaf texture, I think. We want to render this now. We can just give it another name. Let's call it texture 2. And we render the texture. Now if we go on the leaf tab, you can select this texture 2, and you will see that we are replacing the default maple leaf with the complete tree that we just rendered. Again, we need to flip that, but in this case you see that it's not too much, so you can consider this as an appropriate texture for another leaf. So we can actually just render another one. So let's go here, let's call that texture free, and just render that again. Now if we go on the leaf tab, we have this texture free, but now maybe it's starting to be a bit too much details, or maybe not. So the next cool thing now is that once you have generated those leaf textures, you can in fact just go on this leaves tab and select the texture you want. So let's take the first one, and you have this button now which you can use to actually export the image on your computer. So let's say I'm going to place that in a default folder, and you can change the name of the texture obviously, and let's do the same for the texture 2 and then with the texture 3. Now if we go in the folder where we save those files, we have here the first one, which was not properly centered, so it's not covering the full tree, but it was just a simple test, and you have the resolution here. So this is in fact just rendering the color data for now, so you don't have any lighting information here, but that's expected, I guess. Here is the second texture. You see that the resolution here is bigger, and here is the last one, which is a bit messy, but well, it's usable. Okay, so now the next thing I wanted to mention is the leaf attraction support. So let's get back to a regular maple tree config. Let's say this one, and we move the export frame. So the leaf attraction support, we already had support for leaf normal attraction, and okay, can we specify that? In fact, before discussing the leaf attraction, we should mention the resolution control for the leaf also. So let's get to a simple corner, let's say here for instance, and let's get on the leaf tab. So we had this deer attraction. The deer attraction is actually controlling which direction the leaf is going to face. So currently it's a point which is completely above the tree, so the leaves are all trying to face this point up. But we could actually change this direction, and that would turn the leaves. So here it's a random range, so you don't have any clear direction, but if you put everything to say something like 0, then technically you get the leaf all pointing somewhere near the horizon, which can give pretty strange effect, I guess, but never mind. So typically you would just most of the time keep the direct attraction to the top, so leaves are all trying to turn almost to the top, and you can give this maybe some kind of non-zero range. And now the new thing is that we have the support to increase the resolution for the rendering of the leaves. So we have those two new parameters, the U resolution and the V resolution. So currently V resolution is 1. I'm wondering why 1 is here. Can I put... oh, never mind, well, I'll see that another time. So we can increase this resolution in the U and V coordinate, and if you set that to 1, which is a default, you get just a single quad. And okay, so in this case you don't have any deformation. And if you increase the U coordinate, here we have two quads, one on the left and one on the right here, and you see that the leaf is bending, and that is due to the third parameter that we have here, which is the wedge curve. which is non-zero. So if you set that to 0, you don't have any bending at all, and if you set that to non-zero, you get the leaf to bend downwards. So you could go crazy on this, of course. And if we keep increasing the U coordinate, you will see that the bending resolution will increase progressively. So if we have 3, then 4, 5, 6, and currently 6 is the maximum resolution that I'm using for the U direction. But yeah, I guess 4 is plenty, so we don't need much more than that. And then the other one is the V direction that we have here, and you can increase this value to increase the number of quads that we have along the main axis of the leaf here. So if you have this set to 4 or 5 or something like that, you see that right now the leaf is kind of bending downwards like this, and that is due to the other parameters that we have at the bottom here, which is the attraction direction. Attraction for the leaves here, you see, is trying to simulate the gravity, so it's somewhere at the bottom of the tree, so the leaves tend to be attracted downwards. So we have the attraction power and attraction scale now that can be used to define how much the leaves will be attracted. So if you reduce the power like that, you see that it's going down pretty quickly. And if you increase that, the effect is not as obvious. And for the scale, if you increase it, it's going to go quickly. And both of them are complementary. Alright, so with those changes, the next thing I was trying to do was to try to build an initial Willow configuration, and we can actually go through the steps required to build this right now. And let's just say we reset the configuration here for this Maple v2. And first thing I would need is to reduce the number of levels to 2. So I don't need more than this for the Willow tree. But actually, even before that, I need to build a new leaf texture. So I'm going to start with just a single level like this, and I want to use a minimal radius for this, and the length scales should be pretty large like this. And yeah, I don't want any kind of curvature, so I'm going to reduce the garliness, or maybe that's a bit too straight, so maybe just a little bit of it, or maybe a curvature. No, maybe just not so much, just a little bit of garliness. Alright, and then I need to, oh, that's too much. I need to add a leaf on this, and in this case I'm going to display leaves on the level 1. The leafless ratio, I want this to be close to 0. So the leaves should start from the very bottom of the trunk here. And then what else do we need to change? Clearly the size of the leaf is too small, so we can increase that a little bit for now. And first I need to change the model that I'm going to use. So here I'm going to use this Leaf Tropical 1. Okay, I see that the leaf is inverted, so I need to flip that. I mean to unflip. And now I have leaves in all directions like that. And I actually don't really need or want this. I just want them to be flat on the left and right of the trunk. So what are the settings that I need to change? Let me think. I think it's this up angle. I should put that to 0. Can I put this to just 0? It's pretty tricky to do it with those controls, so that's probably something I need to upgrade. But never mind, this should be okay. So that's giving me leaves on the left and the right only, okay. And now I will need the leaf to face this direction. So for that I'm going to use a leaf attraction direction, so that the attraction phi we should be set to 0, right? Alright, but that's not really helping. Now I need to change the theta angle. Okay, that's looking weird. And we have too many leaves actually. I should reduce a bit the density for now. Okay, and I need to get the sun oriented towards the direction that I want. So let's go here. Where is my... okay, it's here. Alright, that is not too bad, I guess. I'm not sure which face is... I guess I can use the curvature here to see that. Okay, so that's the face up for the leaves, and they're bending towards the down part of the leaf. So let's say that this is correct. What we need to change next is the width of the leaf itself, which is too big, so we can reduce that drastically like this. And we also have this resolution here, which is attracting, so we don't really want that. So let's just put everything to 1 and X scale. Yeah, I guess that could be correct. So that could be a good leaf, long leaf for a willow tree. Except that the trunk and leaves ratio is not big enough. I think I need to make the leaves a little bit bigger and larger. Okay, so this should do it. And now I can try to render this new leaf. So I go here and I want to use a maximum resolution for the height, and now I can just reduce this a little bit. Okay, let's close this. That should be okay. I can reduce a little bit the wedge further, but not too much. Okay, because we're touching here, so maybe I can reduce the clouliness here. Okay, now we're touching it. It's the top. Okay, and now we can reduce the wedge further. Okay, so let's render this leaf. Let's call that Willow leaf, and we save it. And actually I'm going to select that here and export the file already to keep it. So export this. Okay, and now I don't want to replace it here. Actually, I just want to use a new tree. So let's scroll that and let's get back to the maple configuration. Okay, and let's say we use only 2 levels, and now we have to replace the leaf with the new texture that we have created. So that would be the willow leaf. Okay, what about the order? It's no, it's flipped again, so yeah, we need to turn that. And the thing now is we need to increase the length of that leaf very significantly. So let's put that to a very big value like this, and the X scale should be reduced significantly also. So something like this maybe. All right. And now what we can do is we also increase the V resolution of the leaf. That's funny, why is it reporting 1? It should not be reporting 1 if the cursor is, the slider is at this position. So I need to investigate this. There's a display issue here. But anyway, we can increase that, and you see that the leaves are bending a little bit towards the ground, but that's not enough. We need to increase bending power, so reduce the power and increase the scale actually. And that's actually starting to look a little bit better. I think what I need to do next is to increase the godliness. So that would be on the curvature for level 1. Godliness should be increased significantly for level 1, but at the same time we need to attract this to the top. Okay, and for level 2 it's a similar thing. We need to increase the godliness a bit, and maybe we have too many of those level 2 branches, so I don't know, maybe we can remove some of them. That would be on the general tab. For level 1 we can reduce a bit the child density. Okay, and yeah, I guess that's not too bad. Maybe for the leaves, the length is something that should be a bit more random, so we get different length value. And next we can still play with the number of leaves and the density that we have on those level 2, so we can increase a bit the density or reduce the part where we have no leaves. Alright, and I guess this is it. That's an example of what I would consider a good initial version for my Willow configuration. So once I have that, I can now export this, and I would call this Willow. Oops. And save it. So now I can just simply go to the Maple 3, for instance, and I can open the file. So I add this Willow config, and now you see I have the tree as we just created it immediately available. Maybe I need to increase a bit the repulsion also. So level 2 repulsion intensity. Okay, why not? And the resolution is not so good, so we can also bump this a little bit. Level 2, like this. And maybe the length of the level 2 branches is too long, so we go on the general tab and we can go on the level 2 and reduce a bit the length. I don't know. Well, you get the idea. Alright, so the next thing I need to mention is that I have now also fixed a significant issue I had with the memory usage for this application, because up to this point every time you were updating the tree and building a new configuration, I was actually still keeping a reference on the previous mesh data, so the memory was growing and it could eventually reach the limit that is allowed for WebAssembly. So this is not happening anymore. Now we have the memory pretty small and it's not moving that much. So this is a good thing. And as a final note, I have also updated the mechanism I'm using to retrieve my tree configuration so that I could actually read all those configs directly from the appropriate folder instead of having to write them all one by one in my global configuration file. So this is it for this time, guys. As usual, if you have any question on this, just let me know in the comments. And on my side, I will keep working on that and adding new features, so you will have another recording on this pretty soon. Thanks for watching and see you next time. Bye bye.